Game journalists are super mad that Black Myth Wukong is performing so exceptionally well. The latest example of this is a man named Tom Foley, who is the associate editor for Esports. He absolutely went on a rage about this game. He is so mad, and he's mad at both players as well as the developer Game Science because the game lacks diversity. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Roll this up over at thatparkplace.com. And this guy, Tom Foley, he used to be a writer over at CBR. I think he ran their trading card game section, and he went on an absolute rage in an article published over at Esports, demanding that Game Science include more diversity in the game. And it's not about the diversity of monsters or anything like that. It's obviously about having more female representation and about having gayness in the game. That is literally all this guy wants. So the article that he wrote is titled Black Myth Wukong's Shameless Lack of Diversity is Attracting the Wrong Type of Fans. And then he bemoaned numerous gamers, praising the game for not being gay or woke. You can see here is the actual article right here. I've linked it, obviously, in that Park Place, but he is super angry. He even uses a image of Wukong with a tear next to him. I don't know. Wukong should be celebrating, right? But this is what he wrote. He fumed. On August 21, Puberty's Instagram page shared news of Wukong breaking Steam's single-player record, and the comments are full of unsavory replies from fans delighted the game isn't inclusive. Because it's not gay or woke, a top comment reads, which at the time of writing has nearly 4,000 likes. So proud of this game that doesn't support any genders or sexual orientations, unlike the other games nowadays, another user said. The common sentiment is that liberals are in tears, and it sounds like right-wing gamers couldn't be happier. You're literally proving the point because you are crying in anger about this game, and you're doing it through this article. So you're literally proving the criticisms correct here with this article. He then unleashed his anger at Game Science, despite giving the game an 8 out of 10 and claiming it is fantastic. Like, he reviewed the game, I guess, for Esports, gave an 8 out of 10, and he even says in the article that he thinks the game is fantastic, but he's not happy. He's not happy. And this is why he's not happy. He says, but after 40 plus hours, I've yet to encounter a single female character aside from one inanimate mini-boss called the Mother of Stone, and no one can convince me that's a good thing. So because he has not run into any female characters in the game except for an inanimate mini-boss called the Mother of Stone, which if it's inanimate, I don't know how it could be female, but clearly this guy has problems. If he thinks an inanimate mini-boss can be female, that just doesn't make any sense. But this is why he's mad. This is why he's angry, because he says that he has not run into any female characters in the game. He says that is not a good thing, and no one can convince him that it is a good thing. From there, he cites a highly skeptical study that claims 10% of all people live disordered LGBT plus lifestyles. This idea that 10% of all people live disordered LGBT lifestyles has been refuted numerous times. American Life League has a very comprehensive article. I think it's an excerpt from an encyclopedia that they've published. You can find it over on EWTN. I did link it here in the article, which I will have the link to this article in the description below, as I always do. But they note that this statistic originated from flawed research conducted by Alfred Kinsey in 1948, and it has been repeated ad nauseum for, I guess, almost 70 plus years now. And this is what American Life League writes in there. Right up here, it says, Kinsey's research represents a classic example of looking for data to support a preordained set of desirable conclusions. Gershon Legman, the original compiler for Kinsey's pornography collection, revealed that Kinsey's not very secret intention was to respectabilize homosexuality and certain sexual perversions. He did not hesitate to extrapolate his utterly inadequate and inconclusive samplings to the whole population of the United States, not to say the world. This is pure propaganda and is ridiculously far from the mathematical or statistical science pretended. So pretty damning comments there from I would assume, a close person to Kinsey, absolutely obliterating his fake research that these other people repeat over and over and over again. In fact, American Life League notes that there is contradictory research conducted by Tom W. Smith. It contradicts Kinsey's research, just to be clear. And that research showed that 93% of the American population has been exclusively heterosexual since the age of 18. 5 to 6% consider themselves bisexual, and only 1% called themselves exclusively homosexual. Furthermore, it notes even the Kinsey Institute finally released the comprehensive results of its 1970 poll after 20 years and admitted that it found that less than 2% of all males had participated in homosexual activity in the last year. Obviously, I would assume that was in 1970, right? So even the institute named after the guy admits that his initial research was absolute bunk. But nevertheless, you have these propaganda institutes literally repeating the same mistakes, and they're going to try and repeat the lie over and over and over again until people actually believe it, when in fact it is just simply not true. Nevertheless, Foley uses this new survey that I think is complete and utter bunk to claim that, quote, diverse games appeal to more players, which can improve sales by helping developers tap into new markets. He also adds diverse games feel more relatable to a broader audience and satisfy the community's growing demand for inclusivity in the industry. Remember, at the beginning of his article, he literally points out to numerous gamers saying that they do not like his version of diversity. They don't like the wokeness. They don't like the gayness. And that is why this game is doing well. He even points to that one of the top comments had over 4,000 likes. So he's literally contradicting himself. He's so stupid. He doesn't realize in his rage, he doesn't realize that he's completely destroyed his own argument by citing all of these examples of people that do not like his version of diversity. And you could he even admits that the game has the highest single player concurrent players for a single player game ever on Steam. But he's claiming that if it was more diverse, it would sell more. Yet everyone he's citing is saying it sold so well because it didn't have his woke version of diversity in it. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. These people are stupid. This guy, Tom Foley, is an idiot. So after completely contradicting his own points and making a fool of himself, he continued to embarrass himself, because then he wrote this: there are plenty of excellent games that don't have a diverse cast of characters simply because there's no room for them. But there was room for diversity in Black Myth Wukong, and the developers seemingly chose to ignore it. I 100% disagree. I mean, just look at these screenshots. Look at all of these different, diverse, supernatural beings that you are fighting. There's like a wolf. There's these giant stone creatures. Don't even know what that thing is. There's Wukong here. There's more giant creatures. Like, there's lots of different creatures in this game. I think I used that. That's just a different screenshot. I think of the same boss. But I mean, here's another one, some kind of like scorpion creature. We got a giant black bear. Looks like some other kind of monkey creature right here. I mean, there's all kinds of actual diversity in the game. It's just not his woke version of diversity, which is women and gayness. Like, that is diversity to this guy. That's what it means. Just absolutely ridiculous. And so he then claims that the game that features an anthropomorphic monkey as its main character is really a straight male. He says this: when a developer elects to only, I guess the monkey it's a straight male monkey, right? I guess it is that. I will give him that. But this is what he writes: when a developer elects to only feature straight male characters, it sends a message that diversity isn't important, or worse, that it's a bad thing. Again, we just went over all of these different monsters that Sun Wukong has to fight, right? So there's plenty of diversity. It's just not the diversity that he likes, and he's claiming that it's a bad thing. And then he goes on and says, this rallies toxic community members who share the same opinion, encouraging passionate gamers to go for each other's throats. Which is what you're doing, right? You're literally doing this. You can't make this stuff up. So I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, because Bishop Robert Barron explains or notes that equity, diversity, and inclusivity are not absolute values, which Foley seems to believe, given his condemnation of game science for spreading a message that diversity isn't important. This guy literally believes that diversity is some kind of absolute value that you should embrace. His version of diversity, at least, right? You need to have gay people and you need to have females in the game. Otherwise, it's bad. I mean, he says that multiple times, right? And it's bad because it attracts people who don't like that stuff. He explains that equity, diversity, and inclusion function as fundamental norms, self-evident moral truths of absolute value that ought to guide our behavior at both the personal and institutional level. However, he notes this is not right. So this is how Foley believes, right? They function as fundamental norms. This is what this guy believes. Self-evident moral truths of absolute value that ought to guide our behavior at both the personal and institutional level. He's literally talking about this. He says game science needs to adhere to it. This is what he's calling for. And he's criticizing them for not doing that because that is what he believes on a personal level, right? That is what a lot of these woke ideologues believe. They do indeed believe that equity, diversity, and inclusion are these absolute values, and they are moral truths that should be guiding everything that they do and should be guiding businesses, etc. But Bishop Barron says this is not right. And he says, and he explains why. For whatever it plays, that determining role must be good in itself, valuable in every and any circumstance, incapable of being positioned by a higher value. Neither equity, diversity, nor inclusion enjoy these prerogatives, and this can be shown readily enough. So obviously I'm going to just skip down because we're focusing on diversity here. And this is exactly what Bishop Barron talks about when he talks about diversity. He does admit that it is a moral value, but it's not an absolute value. He says, but is it an absolute value? Not at all. And a moment's reflection makes this plain. When the many is one-sidedly emphasized, we lose any sense of the values and practices that ought to unite us. This is obvious in the stress today on the individual's right to determine his or her own values and truths, even to the point of dictating one's own gender and sexuality. This hyper-valorization of diversity effectively imprisons each of us on our own separate islands of self-regard and gives rise to constant bickering. We loudly demand that our decisions be respected and our stances tolerated, but the ties that bind us to one another are gone. And this is exactly how Foley is acting, right? He has descended into this constant bickering, and he's loudly demanding that his decisions be respected and tolerated. In fact, he wants to impose his decisions on game science, and that is what he is calling for right here, his wrong-headed decisions. And then finally, he concludes the article writing this. This is after he just hated on gamers and was spreading discord and divisiveness. You literally can't make this stuff up. But this is how he concludes his article. Catalyzing a divide between gamers is terrible for the industry. We all share a common hobby, and we should stand together to make sure as many people can enjoy it as possible. The world is divisive enough. There are countless conflicts happening around us that lead to tragic losses of life every day. Gaming is an escape from the tumultuous world we live in. We shouldn't be carrying hate into what should be a safe space for everyone. This is the guy who literally just spent an entire article hating on people that he opposes on an ideological level. That's what he did. He literally spent this entire article hating on people who don't like his woke ideology and hating on game science who did not embrace his woke ideology. This is the guy who's now trying to tell us we shouldn't be carrying hate into what should be a safe space for everyone. The guy who literally wrote an entire article full of hate and rage. I mean, you literally can't make this stuff up. These people are liars. They will gaslight you as much as they possibly can. But at the end of the day, they are so stupid. It's so easy to see through their gaslighting. It really is. He spent the whole article being hateful, and then he has the gall to say that we shouldn't be carrying hate into what should be a safe space for everyone. Like, take your own advice, dude, and delete this article. Because you're the one spreading the hate. You're the one attacking gamers for not liking wokeness, not liking feminism, and not wanting it in their video games. But what do you guys make of this? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, but to always speak the truth.